Hello, and welcome to the Environmental Update. I'm Brian Hoppy, Chair of the Lower Merion Environmental Advisory Council, or EAC. Throughout this year, we're going to dedicate a portion of each episode to highlight schools within the township that have outstanding environmental programs or curriculum. We're here today at Penn Valley Elementary in Narberth to learn more about their environmental programs. I'm joined by Joe Mudd and Andy Davis, two of Penn Valley's science teachers. Welcome, Joe and Andy.
Thanks for coming to the school, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Brian.
Can you share a little bit with the audience about the environmental program here at Penn Valley?
Absolutely. So Penn Valley, like all the schools in Lower Merion, the fourth grade kids here have an extensive unit on ecosystems. And right behind us here is an eco column. Every fourth grader in this district builds one of these model ecosystems. And the reason why we have them do that, we not only want them to understand what's in an ecosystem by modeling it like this, but also to understand what keeps it stable, what can upset it, and the interdependence of, among the parts of the ecosystem. So we have a little mosquito fish swimming around in there, and he's dining on the aquatic plants in there, and the kids are learning a lot about just the interdependence between the non-living and the living parts of the ecosystem. And we also have some off-site trips that we do to see how this model actually looks in the real world.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you have anything to add to that, Joe?
Yeah, we have some other activities as well. We have the Green Council of Lower Merion School District has a student club here, and they're active doing a variety of things. We kind of let the kids decide each year what they want to focus on. So, for example, this year the kids are working on monitoring energy use in the building, and they've created a little award, and they're using it to help the classrooms, hopefully get fired up about reducing their energy usage. And we have some raised bed vegetable gardens, and we're about to do the planting for that. And sometimes we have classrooms do that. Sometimes we have the Green Council kids take care of that. We have a children's garden, which is actually in honor of a couple of students who passed, but over the years we've had more native plants being planted in that garden. And we have another garden out by our kindergarten, and that's filled with native plants. We've been making an effort to plant trees here. Last year we had in combination with the township and the Penn Valley Civic Association, they donated a tree, and the fourth grade planted that. The environmental club's been able to get our HSA, our homeschool association, to donate money for a couple of redbud trees. So we planted a redbud last year, two last year, one this year, and the plan is to have a grove of 5 trees. So we're making efforts along those kinds of
all here on campus?
Too. All here on campus, yeah. And
in addition to that, my kids are actually growing pollinator plants right here in the classroom. So things like echinacea, black-eyed Susan can attract bees and butterflies.
And they'll be planted out on the campus?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to be working together with our district to find a spot out there that won't get mowed. So that's something that's the way that our grounds people really do work with us, so that we can create something out there that the kids can be a part of, and that also is easy for the district to deal with.
That kind of goes into my next question. Why do you feel it's important to teach Penn Valley or Lower Merion School District, or any child for that matter, about the environment and sustainability?
One of the things that we're just getting into in the class, and actually we're going to be doing this today in the class, is understanding what exactly upsets the balance in an ecosystem. And that's really important for kids to understand. And so the kids have been studying just common pollutants, things like road salt, fertilizer, and acid rain. And so what we're going to have the kids do is to have them model, actually, with an eco column that doesn't have animals in it, but does have plants in it, what happens when you introduce these kinds of pollutants into it. So the kids have some solutions that they've mixed up vinegar with water to model acid rain, for instance, or plant food. And they're going to introduce that into these ecosystems and see what happens over the course of a couple of weeks in their model. We also find that it's really important to get the kids out into the community. As I mentioned before, we have some field trips. So we've been down into Mill Creek, and so the kids did the testing down there, and we want them to know that that creek that runs, right through our backyard, so to speak, has very elevated salt levels. And I think the last thing that we really want them to understand is that this is a really balanced issue. I mean, you and I have to get to work. So does Joe, and road salt is important through those winter months, especially this past winter. However, it is really it's polluting Mill Creek, and the kids know that now because they've seen that the salt levels are elevated, and they also see that the critters that they've been able to find in the creek they're pollution tolerant bugs is essentially what they found a couple weeks ago when we were down there. So they're beginning to understand that these issues we have to take a balanced approach to them. People have to get to work, but we also have a responsibility to this stream that's running through our backyards, and that's what I want kids to come away from 4th grade with.
And sustainability is really becoming fundamental science now. It's clear that the finite resources that we have available to us on the planet are being used at a greater rate than they can be replaced. Wealthy countries like ours are at the high end of the consumption level. So it's really important that here and across the world, but that our kids understand that there are limits to the way this thing operates. And if we don't acknowledge them and understand that we can't just keep consuming in the same way that we have been, there are going to be serious problems. We're already seeing serious problems with that. And so that's a big piece for us too about how important it is and why we think that the kids really need to get an understanding of it.
So you mentioned a little bit about what's going on the grounds, but what other things is the school doing, is Penn Valley doing with respect to maybe recycling or anything else on the sustainability front?
Sure. So we have Power Down Tuesdays and Power Down Fridays, and the idea behind that is we can lower the lights in the halls. We ask the teachers to lower the lights in the classrooms. We have some folks who are doing that all the time, others who participate on Tuesdays and Fridays, but we're happy.
And Joe will walk into my room, actually, he'll just turn off my lights on a Tuesday or a Friday, and he's allowed to do that.
With students in here or with them out of here?
No, with the students in here.
Yeah. Of course, they don't care. They're like, oh, okay. It's for us older guys who are like, wait a minute.
We got a lot of natural light in here. We can operate just fine with 2 days a week.
It's a beautiful classroom.
Yeah. We're really committed to our recycling program. We recycle paper, we recycle the plastics. Of course, our garbage is on a separate stream, but the district has a contract with a hauler who comes in a couple of times a week. We have a pretty good sized dumpster out there that really fills up. So we're trying to do our part in making sure that items that can be used elsewhere rather than just sent to the dump, or actually, our waste goes to the waste to energy plant. But rather than go to that step, let's try to use it elsewhere. And so that's another learning opportunity for the kids.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, training the end user, getting them to separate their recycling in those 3 bins that are over by my desk, is something I have to do with a fair amount of regularity.
Yeah, I find it at our company, if we don't have a display of this goes in the recycling bin, this goes in the compost bin, this goes in the trash, that all gets mixed up. But when they see the example, boom, 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 they just throw right, they'll separate it. But they have to be shown, and that's even adults, so.
Yeah. It really is that end user, that person who makes that decision right on the spot.
So, the Lower Merion School District won the Green Ribbon Schools Award from the U.S. Department of Education several years ago for efforts made towards sustainability across their buildings and departments. How did Penn Valley contribute to that award?
One of the things we had in place, we were able to, with some efforts, combined efforts, we have solar panels on our roof. It's a small display, but the kids were really, in those days, we could raise money by selling food, and so we raised about $7,000 or $8,000. We had a graduate from Penn Valley, an alum. He was still in high school at the time, and he did a couple of fundraisers. One of them, it was Basketball for the Planet, and they raised almost $2,000 in one shot. We had a 5th grade class donate to that. So the solar panels were a real collective effort, but that was a piece of it. Our recycling program was very robust. We were already doing Power Down Fridays. We've now added Tuesdays in for that. We had our garden beds had just been implemented for us, so we were able to show that we had a multifaceted approach towards sustainability on that end of things, and then
I think really making time and planning for something that a curriculum that is coherent and meaningful around these themes that also gets kids outside. That takes time, that takes planning, and teachers here are really on board with that. So not only are we getting kids outside and getting their hands dirty, but we're doing it in a meaningful way that does connect to the work that they're doing here in classroom and the conversations they're having here in class with each other and hopefully at home.
So tell me, what have you done to raise awareness with the children in the school, maybe cross grade, and also with the parents on the environment?
We have a really motivated staff, and they're really engaged. And one of the things that's happened over the years on a consistent basis is we'll have older classes like Andy's, and he'll maybe go hook up with a first or second grade class, and they'll do plantings outside their classroom. And so that'll bring parents in, donating bulbs, donating plants, donating help, with the little kids digging the holes to be able to get the plants in there and that sort of thing. And that's been a consistent part of what we've been doing here over the years, and it gets some involvement beyond just, what we're doing.
Yeah, and to build on that, I've actually taken my fourth graders up and worked together with a fifth grade teacher pretty consistently over the last 4 years to do a lot of the plantings that I was talking about earlier right here on site. I think really getting the kids into our community is a huge part about raising awareness. Every year I also host a class hike, and I invite about all the kids who've come through this classroom over the last 5 years are invited with their families to join me on a hike up on the Appalachian Trail up near Hamburg, PA. And I think that really just having people up with their families, with their moms, with their dads, with their grandparents and their guardians, seeing that landscape in Pennsylvania and from the views that we're going to see it from is really about as much inspiration as you need to stay engaged with these issues.
That's great. Well, thank you, Joe and Andy, for sharing such great information about Penn Valley and your environmental programs and curriculum here.
It's a pleasure.
Again, thanks for coming to the school.
And if you'd like your elementary, middle, or high school's environmental program featured in an upcoming episode of the Environmental Update, please let us know by emailing us at the address below. We're going to head back over to Ashridge Park after the break to meet Commissioner Andy Gavrin, who chairs the Board of Commissioners Environmental Initiatives Committee. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Environmental Update. I'm Brian Hoppy, Chair of the EAC, and we're here on location at Ashridge Park, and I'm with Commissioner Andy Gavrin, one of the newest members of the Board of Commissioners for Lower Merion Township. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Brian. Good to be here.
So you're recently elected to the Board of Commissioners. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you serve, you were appointed Chair of the Environmental Initiatives Committee.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. No, I'm thrilled to be chair of this committee. Obviously, protecting our planet and keeping it in great shape for future generations is so important. And then at the local level, there's so much we can do. I mean, everything from waste management to stormwater to sustainability. I mean, it's across the board. We've done so much, and there's really so much more we can do. And I'm thrilled to be working with the EAC. Do some great things in the township.
So who else is on the Environmental Initiatives Committee with you?
Sure, I serve with George Manos and Scott Zelov, and the three of us are the members from the Board of Commissioners, and like I said, we work with you and the rest of the advisory committee. And
you recently, yourself, Commissioners Manos and Zelov, really did a great job with the EAC helping us get our 5-year environmental action plan pulled together. Your comments were very insightful, and thank you for that. And in May, we presented the EAP to the full Board of Commissioners. How did you think that went?
It was amazing. I truly was so impressed with the work that you and the rest of the advisory committee did on that plan. It was comprehensive, it was specific. And one thing that really struck out, it was action-oriented. And that is so important. It's not pie-in-the-sky ideas that really couldn't be implemented. It was really specific actions, and there were a number of them that were really key to our township. And I think all the hard work that you guys put in showed in the reaction that the Board of Commissioners had. It was positive across the board. Really didn't hear any negative feedback at all on it. It was all these are great initiatives. These are things, you know, there was obviously a lot there. So I don't know if we can get to everything immediately, but certainly there are some priorities in there that we can get to, and excited to work with you on implementing it.
Thank you. And to that note, we purposefully set it up to have short, medium, and long-term goals. And some of those short-term goals we'll get into here in a second. But for the long haul, I mean, it sets the stage for improving the environmental condition within the township and improving the quality of life for the residents. And again, thank you for all your help and the EIC's help.
Sure.
On that note, what do you think the most important environmental initiative is facing the township right now?
First of all, we've done a lot, and I don't want that to get lost, that the township, between my colleagues on the Board of Commissioners who've been serving longer than I have, and former commissioners, the Conservancy, the EAC, and various other residents who've been involved have really taken this township to a great level in terms of environmental stewardship. We have a model green parking lot ordinance. Over 40% of our waste is recycled. We've preserved over 1,000 acres of open space. So all of those, and there are a number of initiatives as well that have happened. We received the gold certification from the Sustainable Pennsylvania Community Program, and it's really in recognition of everything we've done. With that said, I think there's a lot more that we can do as well. And to me, the biggest initiatives are, one, around sustainability, and two, stormwater management.
And speaking of sustainability, we proposed in the EAP a sustainability workshop. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great idea. I think one thing that makes Lower Merion such a special township is the people who live here. We have such incredible and talented people across the board, and getting the input from our community on how to be more sustainable, and I think it's such an important goal, and important to have those resources involved as well. In terms of sustainability, we all say we want to, have our kids have it better than we have. We want to leave the world a better place than we found it. And to me, that's what sustainability is all about. It's about keeping our planet for future generations, and making sure that it's as beautiful then as it is now. And we are, sadly, we're consuming natural resources at I think, an unsustainable rate, and in a way that's not helping our environment. So whether it's conserving water and electricity, whether it's encouraging walking and biking instead of driving, there's so much more that we can do on a sustainability front. And I think getting everyone involved, from the residents to developers to institutions to businesses and to the township itself, I think having all of the stakeholders involved in those efforts are going to be the key to making a difference here.
So the other thing that you mentioned was stormwater, and the township has recently, they're about midway through the completion of a comprehensive stormwater management plan. They hired a contractor to do that. Why was it important for the township to make that kind of investment to guide the management of stormwater within the township?
Sure. Stormwater management is so important. As we've seen this spring, there's been a lot of rain, and it puddles up, on concrete. And not only is that hazardous in and of itself, but what happens is when it's sitting on impervious surfaces, it eventually runs off, and it runs off into our waterways, into our streams, and along the way it picks up pesticides that are used in lawn care, it picks up animal waste, it picks up litter, and ultimately adds bacteria into our waterways. I don't think I need to say it, but obviously that's a problem. So stormwater management is all about doing what we can to minimize that puddling on the impervious surfaces. So whether it's planting more trees with roots that are going to absorb the water, the rainwater, whether it's limiting the amount of impervious surfaces and coming up with other solutions for our properties, even things like connecting rainwater barrels to our downspouts and gutters, and then using that for gardening. there's so much that can be done, and again, it's all these little steps that together and in aggregate can make a huge difference. So, really protecting those waterways is vital to the future of Lower Merion and to our region, and I think that's it's worth a big investment from the township.
So you're newly appointed to the Board of Commissioners, and I'm just curious, what was the one thing that surprised you the most as you got settled in the past few months?
There are so many people who work together to make this township run. It's not just the Board of Commissioners. It's not 14 people sitting up high and making decisions and making it run. There is an amazing staff at the township that are out, that are responsive, that are incredibly helpful, and there are hundreds of volunteers across various areas, whether it's environmental concerns, whether it's with youth activities, whether it's with our parks, whatever is of interest to somebody, there are opportunities for them to get involved. And that's really what makes this township tick. It's all the people who are getting involved at every single level. And that's something I don't think I recognized before I came onto the Board of Commissioners. So it's been amazing to see all our neighbors, getting involved in their own ways.
So this is a little because I know the answer to this question. Do you have any other interests within the township? Is there anything else you like to do with your spare time?
No.
No?
No, I've gotten involved in a lot of ways, especially I have 3 young kids, and one of them started playing ice hockey a couple of years ago, and when she said she wanted to start playing, I said I want to start coaching. And so I've gotten involved with the Lower Merion Bulldogs, and it has been an absolute blast. I work with the littlest kids, and seeing them go from barely being able to stand on ice to scoring a goal is so heartwarming to me, and that's something that I absolutely love and have a passion for.
That's actually where I met you. I've been also involved with the Lower Merion Ice Hockey Club for a very long time, and I'm very happy to have you as a part of it.
Well, thanks. It's been a blast.
Well, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Well, that does it for the summer edition of the Environmental Update. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's program. If you have suggested topics for future episodes or have a question on an environmental issue, please email us at the address below. Thank you, and see you again in the fall.